Today we are going to hear the story of Abram and Sarai. They lived a long time ago and had been married for a long time when they needed to move to a new place. In order to get there, they walked very far towards the city of Haran. They brought their bags and their animals and walked farther and farther. At night, they slept in a tent, and then in the morning they kept walking, following the great river called the Euphrates, which gave them water to drink along the way. Sometimes Abram would go out to the edge of the desert and look across the sand and the sky. God came close to Abram, and Abram came so close to God that he knew what God wanted him to do. God wanted Abram and Sarai not to stop at the next town, but to keep going. So they did what God wanted. This time, they went into the desert and walked toward Canaan. They took their bags and their animals and walked and walked. In the desert, there was no river to follow, so it was a hard journey. Finally, they came to a place called Hebron, where they made their new home. One night, God brought Abram outside, and as Abram looked up at the sky, God came close to him, and he came close to God. God told Abram that he and Sarai would be the parents of a great family. God promised Abram that the members of his great family would be as many as there are stars in the sky. Abram was surprised by this and laughed. He and Sarai were already very old. God's promise sounded impossible. But God told him to change their names anyway. Abram became Abraham, and Sarai became Sarah. A short time later, some strangers came out of the desert, tired and thirsty from their journey. Abraham invited them into their home, and Sarah cooked a big meal to welcome them. The strangers told Abraham and Sarah that they would have a son, and they both laughed again because they were already so old. The strangers went on their way, and then, do you know what happened next? Abraham and Sarah had a baby. They laughed with joy and decided to call the baby Isaac, which means laughter. When Isaac was grown, Abraham sent one of his helpers to find a wife for Isaac. Along the way, the helper stopped by a well. He was really tired and thirsty. Rebecca was at the well, and she offered to give him some water to drink. She was kind and full of courage. The helper told Rebecca about his journey and about Abraham and Sarah and the great family. Rebecca decided that she wanted to be a part of that family, so they went back together so she could marry Isaac. Isaac and Rebecca were very happy together. They had children, and their children had children, and those children had children, and this went on for thousands and thousands of years. Until one day, your grandparents had children, and then your parents had children. Now you are a part of that great family with as many people as there are stars in the sky.